closer together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I have one more here, and then I have one more here. So what I'm doing is I'm putting on a timeline, because the most important thing when you have a question that's like a post-MI infection is the MI happens at time 0. And then this is day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, and then I have 2 weeks here, and I break the scale. Yeah, so no, this is 2 weeks, and then this is months. So this would like be 1 month to infinity months, right? Or 6 months really is the time frame. And then I break the scale a little bit, and so if I were to have something that spanned over here on the bottom of the axis, this would represent 10 weeks, just to save myself some real estate on the diagram. So this is months, and this is 10 weeks. So do you guys know which like post-MI syndrome happens between 0 and 1 day? Yeah. I hate these, but honestly, if you draw this out like 3 times, you'll get all of these questions right, and you'll realize that a lot of cardiovascular questions are 10 times harder when you don't know these time frames, because they're getting at like the time frame in the context of like a cardiophysiology question, or like a pathophysiology question, a genetics question. And so this is a very clinical question, like when do these things happen? But they're like, they already tested you on that in step 1, so they're not really returning to explain a whole lot of that in diagrammatic form. So the first thing is sudden cardiac death, usually from ventricular tachycardia or arrhythmia. Then you have an overlapping window between 0 and 3 days, and that's your like early, it's called EIAP. Do you guys know what that is? It's like pericardium, so it's like pericarditis, but it's like early pericarditis. So it's like early infarct associated pericarditis. So it can only happen, the E is for early, right? So it can only happen 0 to 3 days. You will never see a question that is longer than that, unless the point is that it's refractory and you have to do something about it. So you're not diagnosing it, so they're allowed to do that. It's also called EPIP, which is early post-infectious pericarditis, but I'm not going to write that out so you can reference it. I just have it there. And then, do you guys know what from 3 to 5 days you might experience? Yeah, so not a free wall rupture, but it is kind of like a rupture. You what? So this is a VSR. Yeah, septal rupture. So what is the time frame for a free wall rupture? That's from 5 days all the way up to 2 weeks. So I write this super stupid, like with like the letters representing all the words. I know what it represents because I've written it a million times. I've probably drawn this out for people like, probably 15 times. And it's just a good way to hammer it into your head so that on test day you immediately know the answer. It's a really quick way to know a complex question. So if I had a papillary muscle rupture, do you guys know the time frame?
Usually in the early times.
Yeah, it is early. It's like 2 to 7. So this is like PMR here. I really strongly recommend that you guys either follow along or take a screenshot and just like draw this yourself. And I like to write a little 2 here just so I can remember that this is the 2, because that helps me remember that, because some of these are a little bit harder to remember. Like I like to visually understand this, so it goes like 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 2, and then I go up, and visually I know that sudden cardiac death happens within 24 hours. And so then I add the PMR, and this is a certain span of time that I just have to remember 2 to 7, that's it. And so then I draw up from 3, and I go to 2 weeks. Do you know what this represents? This would be, do you guys know? Yeah, pseudoaneurysm. Yeah, so after, you what?
From 2 weeks to months, it's usually restless syndrome, right?
Yeah. So you can have from 2 weeks to 1 month. You can have what are two things you can have? You can have an aortic aneurysm. This is a real aneurysm. Or you can have a ventricular aneurysm. And then the reason we have this 10 weeks thing that is like a broken scale, like this represents 10 weeks, this represents a month and above, is we have one more. What post-MI thing have we not talked about yet? Exactly. And another name for Dressler syndrome, yeah, post-MI syndrome. So, so this is also known as Dressler. So I just made this up out of Ambos, which is my reference for these numbers. These numbers.
Hey, you mind asking, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
So, where are you from actually? You've been mostly in the group.
I'm from the United States. I'm a doctor here in the